please take away the floor, and good luck to our speakers.
Many thanks, Theodora. Just to make sure you hear me loud and clear.
Correct,
Thank you
we
so
hear you
much.
perfectly.
Thank you. Just a quick introduction for myself. My name is Violeta Georgieva. I'm responsible for EU government affairs for AstraZeneca based in Brussels. And indeed, as Teddy said, this is not my first time moderating a panel at the Biotech Atelier. And actually, it starts to look like year after year, I have been privileged to moderate sessions which deliver not only remarkable personal stories, but also lots of motivation to drive change in the field of health. So again, a huge pleasure to be with you today. And thank you for coming to our session about the FemTech industry, which is, as you know, enabling women's health, but also I would say society at large. And for a start, I just wanted to make sure that we all understand what we mean by FemTech, because this is or female technology. This is relatively a new term, and over the past few years, FemTech has actually grown exponentially to provide for a large range of technology-based, but also very consumer-centric products and solutions, I would say, for improving women's health. And you can actually think of conditions which are specific to women, such as, for example, maternal health, menstrual health, pelvic, sexual health, fertility. But you can also think of a number of more general health conditions which are affecting women disproportionately or just differently. Think, for example, of osteoporosis or cardiovascular disease. And what was remarkable was really that we're seeing a variety of solutions, and they come in different forms and shapes, I would say, all provided by the FemTech industry. We see consumer products, we see services, applications, trackables, wearables, medical devices, what else? Hardware, therapeutic drugs, vitamins, supplements. So it's a huge range of products, very exciting. And FemTech has been a very dynamic field. And now we see that both public awareness, company formation, and also funding capital is actually on the rise. Just a few days ago, I made a quick check to find out that actually in the period between 2020 and 2025, FemTech is supposed to grow, it is expected to grow almost double, and it will reach about 75 billion US dollars of investments. And just with this very quick introduction and overview, I'm really happy to welcome today our remarkable speakers, and I'm really looking forward to hearing their stories. And I believe we're starting with Ms. Iva Lazarova, who is a clinical and regulatory lead at DAYE. The floor is yours, Iva.
Thank you. I just want to share my screen, and thank you all for having me. Let me just... Are you able to see it? I think yes. So hi everyone, I'm Iva Lazarova, and it's a great pleasure to be talking to all of you today. So thank you for joining. I joined DAYE a year ago, and I have dedicated most of my time to deliver to the company's mission to solve the female paying gap. And I'm really proud to be part of that company. I'm a biochemist and microbiologist by education, and I'm here today to talk to you about the greatest gender-based inequality of all, which is the gender gap in healthcare. You may have heard about the gender pay gap or about the gender gap in looking after household chores, but today I'd like to tell you about the gender gap in healthcare and innovation. Did you know that it wasn't until 1993 that women were fully allowed to participate in clinical trials? What this means is that the majority of medications on the market today were never designed for or tested on the female physiology, including medications that were specifically designed for women. Did you also know that you can get a medication for women approved by regulators using mostly men in your clinical testing data? It sounds absurd and kind of scary, but sadly it is true. You can take a look at ADI, which is the female Viagra. It was approved based on a study in 25 patients, 23 of which were actually men. Furthermore, a study published in Nature shows that women get diagnosed with diseases far later than men. So the current study that I'm quoting is a Danish study that looked at data from over 7 million health records over the course of 21 years and discovered that women were diagnosed later than men in over 700 diseases. To further illustrate the gender gap in medical research, you only need to look at period pain. 90% of women experience it, yet no localized treatment has been developed. At the same time, male conditions like erectile dysfunction, which almost 90% of men, receive the lion's share of both clinical focus and research funding. Period pain might sound like a simple inconvenience, but it's actually not, and the lack of solutions to tackle it actually creates significant health risks. Those who suffer from menstrual cramps have no alternatives apart from painkillers, which were not designed to be taken monthly or to specifically treat the condition. Take a look at Midol, for example. Midol is one of the most commonly used treatments for period pain. It turns out that using it leads to opioid dependence. Further, monthly use of ibuprofen and other common painkillers results in gastric and neurological side effects, and here are just a few. So you have abdominal pain, indigestion, pain in the chest, itching skin, nausea, weakness, weight gain, and those are just the common side effects, really. The lack of innovation in period pain exists despite researchers from UCL having already demonstrated that suffering from menstrual cramps can be as painful as having a heart attack. And speaking of heart attacks, according to a British Heart Foundation from study, women going through a heart attack are 50% more likely than men to get misdiagnosed and turned away from emergency rooms, in part due to physicians only knowing how to recognize those symptoms in men. I couldn't go on without mentioning contraception too. 60% of women discontinue hormonal contraceptions after 6 months of use due to the severity of their side effects. A few months ago, we at DAYE launched a survey asking 30,000 women about their experience with hormonal contraception, and 86% of them said that they care more about the side effects and invasiveness of the method rather than its effectiveness at preventing pregnancy. But the truly eye-opening part of the study was what they had to say in the open answer questions. They were more moved to the point. They've been moved to the point of preferring sterilization due to the severity of their side effects experienced with modern contraceptive methods. And here I've taken out some of the quotes from those women. All of these options kind of suck, and I wish there was something better. Sterilization seems like the only option for me, seeing as I have had horrible issues with all the other types of contraception. There is currently no good method, and I've tried most, which is why I eventually set out on sterilization. And one more that I bet is relatable for many women. It always seems to be up to woman to take the lead and find the right contraceptive for her. Now I ask you to imagine a world where women have access to contraception, which works, rather than making them choose invasive surgery as a last resort. At the same time, when male contraceptions was developed, research was stopped due to the clinical trial participants experiencing side effects like dizziness and mood swings, all of which are well known to any woman who has ever used hormonal contraception. For decades, biomedical researchers assumed that women and men experience conditions and treatments identically, but we've known that simply isn't true. So what does that mean for conditions affecting only women? There's striking lack of research. Let's take endometriosis. It affects 1 in 10 women, and there is a striking lack of research into the disease. The biggest study that has ever been conducted was not very helpful to patients. It looked at the correlation between attractiveness, or in other words, how the woman looks, and the likelihood of endometriosis. And would you like to know what the study's conclusion was? I'll actually read it to you word by word. Women with endometriosis were judged to be more attractive. Moreover, they had a leaner silhouette, larger breasts, and had sex for the first time at an earlier age. How this helps anyone who actually experiences endometriosis is beyond me, and yet this is a peer-reviewed published article. Imagine if instead of this, I had a study that actually helped women understand and get diagnosed with endometriosis rather than be the subject of over-sexualization. At DAYE, the gynae care company I work for, we are fighting to bridge the gender gap, in medical research and innovation. We've started with a simple premise. We design products for women specifically and having tested on the female physiology exclusively. While this may seem like common sense, it actually makes us a proud outlier. To bring it home, I'd like you to meet the speculum. I know what you're thinking, but no, this is not a medieval torture device or something really outdated that no one really uses anymore. In fact, it is a central tool used in every gynecological exam today. It has had the same design since it was first introduced in the Roman Empire, and it often leads to vaginal tearing and bleeding. Imagine if gynecology had access to modern, well-functioning tools that didn't make women dread their regular checkups. So why is this happening? The gender bias in clinical research starts very early. There's preference for the use of male mice in early stage animal studies. This means that even before human testing can begin, data on how a new pharmaceutical or medical device affects the female physiology is lacking. Further, there's clear gap in funding, both public and private. According to a UK analysis, less than 2.5% of publicly funded research was dedicated to reproductive health. At the same time, 30% of women will suffer from a reproductive or gynecological health issue in their lifetime. A further block of female health products reaching the target audience that need them is Facebook. An investigation by the New York Times shows that 60 female health companies have had their ads consistently rejected by Facebook. And these unjustified bans have affected us too as well. Over the past year, DAYE has been banned for using the words menopause and vagina on our landing page. And also our videos of tampons were placed in the same category as drugs, guns, and violence. While ads for erectile dysfunction reign supreme on large social media platforms, talking about periods, breastfeeding, menopause, or vagina gets you banned. This lack of fundings, combined with advertising bans, means that solutions to female health problems, even if existing, never reach the people who desperately need them. So how can we meaningfully move the needle and change this depressing status quo? First of all, let's increase the percentage of public funding that goes to reproductive health. Also, let's support female founders who are more likely to develop products to bridge the gender gap in medical innovation. Women-led startups received only 2.3% of venture capital funding in 2020. And finally, let's shout about the great work that's been done to improve health outcomes for women. And let's do that now. Starting with We, it is a startup developing hormone-free contraception that works by increasing the vaginal mucus so it plugs the cervix, preventing sperm from entering. Onad has designed a series of silicone vaginal rings, which can be added to a partner's penis to prevent painful penetrative sex. Next Gen Jane designed a way for people to screen for endometriosis using the menstrual fluid from a tampon. And of course, we have clinically validated cramp-suiting tampons, and we are the only company that has developed the first pain-relieving tampon. Let's put our heads together to imagine a world where medicines are designed specifically for women and also tested on the female physiology. It's entirely possible. Understanding the gender-based health differences is incredibly valuable, and we're past the era of considering menstrual and vaginal health a taboo. It's time we demand medical equality too. And medical equality starts with language equality. The female body, while frequently over-sexualized and exploited for profit, is nothing to be ashamed of. While the word vagina may make many feel uncomfortable, including both researchers and ad executives at Facebook, it is not a curse word. This is why I invite you to talk about your female health experiences openly. Need to use a restaurant bathroom to change your tampon? Tell them that's why you need to come in off the street. Need a day off work to deal with your period pain? Tell your manager that's the real reason you won't be coming in work that day. It's only by speaking about these experiences that we will see their real impact and we will invest in making them better. And lastly, use the word vagina proudly and frequently, starting now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Iva. First of all, congratulations on the remarkable work you're doing. That was very inspiring to hear, but also thanks a lot for the eye-opening presentation. I think it was very important for more and more audiences to hear this story, definitely. And also thank you very much for just providing a few solutions indeed and empowering the community. That's super important as well. I would like to invite our audience to leave their questions in the chat, and of course you can we can get back again to Iva at the end of the conversation, because I hope you can really take the maximum out of having Iva with us today. A very real problem, and we have here a person who is truly driving change with us on the call. Thank you, Iva.
Thank you.
I'm moving on now to our next speaker. Give me a second. Who is Miss Hana Janebdar, and she's the co-founder and CEO of Juno Bio. This is an Illumina-backed startup, and Juno Bio exists to forge the standard of care women deserve. This is very much linked to what we've just heard from Iva as well. And the company is also, again, aimed at closing the gender health gap with the gynecological health platform, which is focusing exactly on the vaginal microbiome. Thank you very much, Hana. The floor is yours.
Amazing. Hi, I'm just going to share my screen really quickly. I hope you can all see it. Yeah? Okay.
We can see it.
Fantastic. All right, so thanks for that introduction. As you said, I'm Hannah, and I'm the CEO and founder of Juno Bio. And I first of all want to say thank you for putting together this session. I am very happy to be supporting the platforming of the gender health gap and FemTech leaders at a biotech conference. Even just 5 years ago, this was just not a thing that used to happen. So at Juno, as you said, we exist to forge the standard of care that we deserve. We're a women-powered platform decoding gynecological health, and we're starting with the vaginal microbiome. Today, I thought it would be useful if I gave you a little overview of how we started, how we built the world's best vaginal microbiome test, and why we're excited about where we're headed. And as a point of clarification, throughout this presentation today, you'll often hear me use the term women, and it's important to note, of course, that this is really just a shorthand for women and people with vaginas. So, we started Juno in 2018. I have a background in biology and biochemical engineering from Imperial and UCL, and I worked as a microbiome scientist in the lab optimizing bacterial consortia. And I think, given that it's a biotech conference, we probably already all know that microbiomes mean the communities of bacteria and fungus and viruses that live in and on us and around us. Around the time when I was working as a microbiome scientist, we had seen an enormous explosion of microbiome research and commercialization of almost every type of microbiome under the sun. So from the skin to the soil to the gut, but almost nobody was meaningfully working on the vaginal microbiome. And that really shocked me. And it shocked me for a number of reasons. Just even scientifically, it is the most readily accessible in terms of sampling. It is actionable, and it holds the biggest promise for utility. And it's key to women's health. So it impacts billions of women worldwide because the vaginal microbiome is implicated in over 30 conditions. And that's everything from recurrent bacterial vaginosis, which is a type of infection, all the way through to things like infertility, pelvic inflammatory disease, and miscarriage. It also affects women in a very significant way. So I think the effects of fertility, infertility, or miscarriages are obvious, but what a lot of people don't realize, I guess, is that even the primary conditions, even things like recurrent vaginal infections, can really impact women in very significant ways. So two-thirds of women that have recurrent vaginal infections, for instance, have anxiety and depression because of it, and they have a quality of life score that is on par or lower than that of people with things like COPD or diabetes. So it affects billions of women worldwide, and they're affected in a very deep way. And the unfortunate thing is that current or existing solutions at the time really didn't work. don't work. The gold standard, for instance, for diagnosing bacterial vaginosis is only ever right 61% of the time, which for a diagnostic is abysmal. But the problem, of course, is that this is really a symptom of a wider problem. And the wider problem is that of women's health. Healthcare systems are broken, outdated, and they fail women at every level. I think you've just heard, for instance, a lot of this. Women's health is massively under-researched. It's inaccessible, it's badly diagnosed, and it's inadequately treated. So 1 in 5 women, for instance, when they go to their physician's office, their symptoms are completely ignored, and some studies put this as high as 80%. Women, it takes them 4 years longer to reach a diagnosis compared to men across over 700 conditions, and women are twice as likely to suffer adverse drug reactions because they were never really included in that research to begin with. But there is a glimmer of hope here, because for the first time in history, we've converged on a situation in which this can be disrupted and shaken up in a very significant way. So over the past 20 years, we've had key enabling technologies. Of course, everybody will be familiar with sequencing and the lowering of that cost more than exponentially. We've had a significant shift towards at-home testing and diagnostic-based precision medicine, accelerated by the pandemic. And we have a severely underserved market that has increasing purchasing power. So 80% of healthcare decisions are actually made by women, and women are 75% more likely to use digital health solutions compared to men. And really importantly, also in biotech, we've had really the foundational business model, scientific and translational proof that using population level insights to drive innovation works. And so that's why we formed Juno Bio. We're a gynecological health platform decoding women's health. We're building the standard of care that we deserve, and we're starting with vaginal microbiome tests. So we launched in 2018, and in 2019, we were quickly backed by Illumina. And we ran one of the world's largest IRB approved studies of its kind. So over 1,000 women from all over the US took part in a study called the Juno study. It was launched in downtown San Francisco at something called the Vagina Party on a Friday 13th. We're adamant to break down every taboo in our way. And the Juno study enabled us to build a really rich understanding of vaginal microbiomes. So that's everything from, what is even possible here? What microbes exist? What is the best way of really testing them? And where are the holes and the impact on women? And all of that work and research has informed the launch of our first product. So we really pioneered vaginal microbiome testing at Juno. In the middle of the pandemic, we built and launched a next generation sequencing based vaginal microbiome test. And so what this test does is it uses next generation sequencing to give women an insight into the full bacterial and fungal profile in a vaginal swab. Women order a kit directly from Juno. It's a very simple, easy at-home sample collection process using a vaginal swab, which everyone is familiar with given COVID testing. It's sent back to our lab, and we provide them with comprehensive answers of what exactly is going on. And we do this in very personalized and what we like to call human speak. And they're then given very actionable next steps and the ability to book in with a coach if they have any questions. And importantly, all of the results are anonymized and pooled to power up further research to really close the gender health gap. And at Juno, we're an iterative bunch. We like to focus on utility, etc. But what really surprised us was just how much utility our customers were deriving from even the earliest versions of our test. And I think the month-on-month growth and the customer feedback really speaks for itself. We're very excited about the role that we've played in growing our industry, in pioneering the vaginal microbiome space. And we're also very excited about the work that we've been doing in terms of the clinical pathways, the integrations, and the partnerships that we'll be announcing soon. And I think the future for our field is very bright. And I predict a couple of things over the next 5 to 10 years are going to take hold. So I think that the user, the consumers, and the physicians are going to be a lot more better informed than they are right now, which will mean that products in turn will be even better because they have to reach that mark, which is exciting. I think we'll see a shift from wellness and marketing plays to actual changes in clinical pathways. I think we'll see next generation sequencing really wipe out culture-based and PCR type testing. We'll see novel biomarkers and patents for improved diagnostics coming online, and we'll see the first novel stratified therapeutic solutions for the vaginal microbiome. And as a wider shift, I guess, in biotech that has implications in women's health and also the vaginal microbiome is a shift from silos to platforms and a much closer relationship and a faster response of R&D to insights from population level monitoring. So I think if there's one thing that I definitely want you to take away from today, it's that women's health is more than just fertility and menstruation and hormones. It's a huge market opportunity that encompasses much more than what we've traditionally thought of as women's health. And that's everything from the vaginal microbiome all the way through to, chronic conditions, which were alluded to at the beginning of this session. So I think that's a good introduction to Juno, a good overview of our space and where it's headed. Thank you for listening. And if you're as passionate about closing the gender health gap as I am, my door is always open to our community. Thank you.
Many thanks, Hana. Very insightful again. And in the two presentations that we've just heard, I really liked how you ladies are really pointing to the real problems and to the need to really move to a real modern society and address those. But you're really showcasing your wonderful solutions that you're providing. So thank you also, Hana. We've actually got one question for you, Hana, and this is about the Juno study. Has it already been published, and is it possible that you share with our participants a link or where the results could be actually accessed?
Yeah, we'll definitely share more information after this, and I'm happy for you to circulate that, and it is in the process of being published.
Thank you so much, Hana. So we are halfway through our session today with the first two fantastic speakers and moving to two more remarkable ladies in the second bit of the session. And please keep your questions coming in. We'll make sure they don't get unnoticed. And I'm moving now to Ms. Souad Belarbi, who is Government Affairs and Market Access Director for EU South and Indirect Markets at Hologic. Souad, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Violeta. And it was very interesting, two speakers before me. I really enjoyed listening and learning about all the great presentations and solutions. I did share a few slides. I don't know if you can populate them, or I will try to share otherwise my screen.
I think Theodora can help us with the slides. And just in the meantime, Souad, just to make sure you unblock your camera because we do not see you.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was. Is it now? Can you see me?
It's coming up, yes. Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. So, okay, thank you very much for putting my slides there. So I would like first to share a bit of my experience. I'm Souad Belarbi. I am currently, as you just said, the Governmental Affairs and Market Access Director for Europe, specifically Europe South at Hologic, which implies many things, but among them, responsibility around funding and reimbursement and access for medical technologies. Hologic is an innovative medical technology company, primarily focused on improving women's health and well-being through early detection and treatment, addressing diseases such as breast health, skeletal, sexual, and reproductive health problems. So why did I decide to join Hologic back in 2018, 4 years ago now? So being a woman, an expert in the field of market access and governmental affairs, I knew I could make an impact for women's health in a company who gives the same chances and responsibilities to both women and men. Also, I grew up in a large family surrounded by women. I do have 6 sisters, and I discovered early on the specificities of women's health in everyday life and when diseases strike. And I felt I would be proud to provide access to medical technologies that are designed for women, when the majority of the industry often overlooks our specificities and there is a genuine funding gap between women and men disease, resulting in lower quality care and less innovation that are oriented for women's health. In retrospect, it was also a sensible choice to make. The FemTech market is booming. The COVID-19 pandemic has also raised awareness about the situation of women and unbearable rising gender inequalities. So we know the road will be long to closing the gender health gap, but the debate is more mature than ever, and we must seize the momentum. This is why I would like to reflect today on what the FemTech industry could and should do to improve women's health. Next slide, please. Thank you. So first, the industry should contribute to raising awareness about the specificities of women's health. It should be crystal clear that women and men have different health needs, and that the health problems that affect both women and men can affect women differently. Let's take the example of sexual transmitted infections. They can have more serious consequences on women's fertility and health. We know that between 10% of women who have had chlamydia for a year have fallopian tube lesions that could lead to infertility. And women should be made better aware of such consequences. But once you said that, how do you effectively raise awareness? We believe at Hologic that the industry has also a key role to play by producing studies and running public campaigns. And for example, in 2020, we launched the Global Women Health Index, a survey that aims to shed light on the health situations of women worldwide and create awareness among countries via a large disseminations through multi-stakeholder events and press releases. And we also recently partnered with the women's tennis associations to amplify the message that women's health is crucial to the well-being of society at large. Next slide, please. Another key point for the industry is to highlight that women's health is an innovative and worthy market due to the better response to unmet clinical needs, and we've had examples before and more to come. This evolution attracts new projects and innovators, increases the interest of this FemTech industry to policymakers, and ultimately improves the quality of lives of women. Today, I was doing some research as well, and we count around 1,500 FemTech companies around the world. And the number is growing every year, thanks to the dedicated entrepreneurs, of which we have a diverse examples here around the table today. And this FemTech industry that was valued at around $19 billion in 2019 is expected to grow up to $60 billion in 2027. So this is no surprise, as with the progress towards equality, women want to proactively take care of their health and in every sphere, including sexual health and emotional well-being. And a key illustration is the example of endometriosis. For example, in France, after many years of women's raising awareness of the medical wandering, we see now government eventually developing roadmap to tackle this disease early on, and also starting to allocate funds to address and to treat, such as reimbursement for endo tests, such as long recognitions of this condition as a long health issues with some specific allocated fund when you have to go and visit specialists. So overall, it is an imperative need to remove the taboos that persist in the approach to women's health, both among decision makers and among industry. It is unacceptable that women's diseases are less researched and funded than men's disease. It is unacceptable that we neglect women's pain. It is unacceptable that women are overall underrepresented when public health decisions related to women's health are taken. Next slide, please. One way to overcome these taboos could be more engagement with policymakers, and the industry should make its voice heard and highlight its role in changing a healthcare system. The industry will only become legitimate if it shows its added value and if it implements best practices in their utility, the efficiency of all the innovations that we provide should be backed up with studies. This is what at Hologic we call the science of sures, which is our one of our main pillars. And it is also worth mobilizing for health technology assessment. And I talk by experience here around the long and lengthy bureaucratic process that it could be to get a reimbursement for some specific technology. As an example, it took us 10 years for a cervical cancer test based on mRNA, which is more specific, therefore less false positive and less unnecessary treatment, to be reimbursed in France. 10 years. And we continue to expand these recognitions in other countries in Europe where still more work needs to be done. So in an industry that is in an early growth stage, quick recognitions of innovations should be a priority as well. Eventually, the industry should position itself as a privileged partner for public authority when they design initiatives for women's health. And FemTech has a unique perspective on how and what should be done, and it should push for ambitious plans to improve women's health. Next slide. So to conclude, I would like to highlight 3 key indicators of progress for the sector and women's health more generally. The first one is a FemTech company that integrates the top 20 of medical company in terms of market capitalizations would be a strong business signal. The second one, a widespread recognition of the role of the industry, which is considered a policy partner by public authorities, would be a strong signal for a mentality change. And third one, the elaborations of ambitious women's health action plans by European countries would be a strong policy signal. So thank you for your attention, and I strongly believe that we all together can achieve meaningful change from women by the end of the decade, hopefully, not that soon. Thank you.
Many thanks, Souad. Again, very real life examples. I would certainly remember the one from France, remarkable indeed. And thank you also very much for providing some of a bit of the recipe for success for the sector and for future problem resolution, I would say. Thank you, very insightful again. I'd really like at the end of the conversation, I really like to hear from the 4 of you actually what is still missing, but I hear a lot of that already in your presentations. Thank you. So we're moving now to our last speaker of this session. This is Miss Anna Stefani, or I should say engineer Anna Stefani, who is an Italian biomedical engineer of We Women Engineers Association. This is an association working now in the field of FemTech, and Anna herself is from ALIRA Health. She will speak on the topic of diverse leaders, and we're all ears. Anna, thank you.
Thank you so much, Violeta, and thank you for the other presenters for their outstanding presentations. I will share my screen. Okay, can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Stefani, a biomedical engineer, and I will be talking about diverse leaders. A quick introduction about me. So, I am Anna. I was born and grown up in Bassano del Grappa, in northeast of Italy. I have a master's degree in biomedical engineering, and I'm actually an ambassador and survey manager for We Women Engineers, which is an association part of HIMSS Italy community. I had marketing experience and sales experience, and together we're working with 2 startups. I had experience in clinical support for robotic surgery, and actually I'm project manager for ALIRA Health for the development and of apps and web dashboards for clinical trials and standard care. Actually, my passions are about medical devices, robotic surgery, data science, and digital healthcare. About the We Women Engineers, we are actually an association, a non-profit association that was born in 2016 as a social community. Then we grow every year, and then we established the association last year in 2021. Our main goals are about promoting the profession of biomedical engineer around Italy, but around also Europe. We support young engineers, young researchers, and professionals in this industry. We amplify women's voice in this industry, and we advocate for social projects for inclusion and growth. We are in this sector. So, what is medtech? In this medtech sector, we really know that it's peculiar for these characteristics. So it is a sector that deals with human health, deals with ethics, and it's highly regulated and complex somehow. So we identified some industry gaps, some medtech industry gaps that actually are present for women in our sector. Dividing from medtech professional and patient, we can see for medtech professionals some problems in dealing with personal life, such as having an additional workload of family care and responsibilities. Together with having a medtech environment could be quite having working long hours and being a non-flexible schedule for women. We saw that there is an exclusion in decision making due to discriminatory and evaluating stereotypes, as well as the well-known gender pay gap. In regards to patients, as we saw in Iva presentation, there are historically we had only men-only clinical studies that didn't take into account biological and socioeconomic differences. As well, we found some problems also in the relationship between doctor and patient. So somehow some patient cannot be cured by a doctor of a different gender. So this could be a problem. And what we understood that in fact we are all diverse, and so gender should be considered and valued as a diversity. But talking about these together in group, we were asking ourselves, but should diversity belong to leadership? In fact, leadership has changed through the years. The old view that is still present in the sector sees the boss as a leader, but do we really think that someone that uses only power to influence others is a real leader? The new view says that the leader is someone who instead makes room for everyone, gives everyone the floor, and is, of course, non-centralizing. And sometimes the real leader could be anyone in the group and have no power. A leader is someone that opens minds and inspires people to provide a call to action for them. We actually looked for data about that, and we still found that more than 400 health technology professionals say and agree that women are significantly underrepresented in the sector. We found this data interesting for 3 points mainly. Because the male and female responders both say that the biggest barriers in women leadership in medtech are about the exclusion from networks of communication and influence, stereotyping and bias, and lack of top management commitment to gender parity. That's why we started internal work group, because we wanted to hear everyone's voice, asking 3 simple questions to the work group in order to understand what we think about how we see women as leader. In regards to the first question, what does a woman leader look like to you? We found also some role models, but we see the woman as someone who has an equality culture at first, and is respectful to a diverse mindset, even opposite, so even coming from the previous historically settled mindset. Our leader for us is someone that acts with integrity and self-awareness, is not blocked by others' judgment, and is determined and focused on clear goals. Something that comes out from a lot of us, mainly everyone, is that a woman leader does not have to behave like a man to assert the leadership, but as his own way to work or work style. The second question was about how can a woman empower herself as a leader today? And we some kind of design a list of things, a list of action for a woman to empower herself. So at first, listening to herself and freeing herself from preconception, because the context where we raised up is this one. So we firstly have to look at ourselves, then reading, informing, and own topic, not also about the industry, but also on gender parity, getting out of the comfort zone. So implementing even small but courageous actions like expressing opinions, asking for a pay rise or whatever. Developing and nurturing a network is something that was very important. It's why we are starting to do in our association, but we wanted to spread the word to other to the world industry, of course. So it's not about understanding that we have power to empower ourselves, but it's about the fact is that we need to change the context where we are. So the third question was about what characteristics do you think a woman leader should have? And some of them are about assertivity and empathetic, optimistic skills, as well as being courageous and tenacious and correct with the vision. So the fact is that we work and live in a complex and regulated context, as well as we have to change a paradigm. We have to change. For this reason, we know that we have to act wisely to drive our sector kindly towards a concept change. It is not easy, and we need to use change management skills to do that. What we see as a value in this change is that having more women in leadership, that means having more role models, more professional network, and more women employed in medtech will result in more quality for our industry. So more diversity in decision making will result in more quality, more reality, because we somehow represent the other half of the world that has not been represented in leadership. So we want a real world leadership now. We want more equity, so workload and responsibility could be distributed to everyone, and more innovation, because we think that more ideas and different points of views could cause an improvement of innovation. In conclusion, how can we fill medtech gender gap? We found these action points that could be useful for medtech sector to be applied, mostly because medtech sector is, as a definition, innovative, and also as biomedical engineers are an innovative career path, an innovative profession. So as first point is to find equal opportunities and actions with funds. So medtech companies should include activities to promote gender equity in their corporate costs. Diversity education is very important. So training doctors and engineers on diversity to recognize merit, deconstruct bias, and recognize different career paths as we are as a definition. Very important is the data collection, as we saw in the previous presentation. So improving the collection and the analysis of gender disaggregated data is something that is very focal. As well as diversity audits is something that European community is going to apply for the entire environment, as well if medtech industry will promote themselves being in forefront in this topic could help us to have an even more innovative industry. I want to thank my team. I want to give a special thank to Manuela Appendino, Margherita Lia, Daniela Marino, Elisa Chieregato, and all we were mentioning still. You can find here our contacts. And I thank you, of course, for listening for my presentation.
Many thanks, Anna. Lots of food for thought, I think, and I believe for many of us in this session, lots of recommendations for also how we ourselves can do better. And thank you also for providing some of, again, solutions to promote the sector and also promote female leadership. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would now invite everybody back on camera, because I think we can have just a bit of a chat, reflecting further on what you have shared with us. Lots of content, lots of also recommendations, as I said. And still, I want to provoke you with something. We all agree here that indeed the FemTech industry, the sector altogether, is truly on the rise. And I think this is certainly also due to your roles in this sector, the roles of your peers, and many people investing lots of energy and time. We've seen capital is also on the rise. And still, I've just checked quickly while I was preparing for our chat today, and I've seen that again, half of the sector, half of the companies operating in the FemTech industry are based in North America. The US is certainly the outlier with about 50%, and together with Canada, 55%. We're all in Europe on this call, and again, we're second place worldwide, which is not bad. But how do we do better as a continent? Does it have to do with our culture? Does it have to do with the national policies? Just back again to the example of Souad that she mentioned from France. What does need to change here in Europe so that we can truly help the sector, help women? Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I can give that a go, because as a company, we are based between the UK and the US. So we started off as a UK company and we quickly moved to the US because that's what made the most sense for what we were doing. And I think the fact that there is more funding or a bigger sort of industry in the US/North America compared to the UK or Europe is really a symptom of just, at least from the startup perspective, how that works and how funding works. So generally for all startups across the board, you will find that it is bigger and better in the US, right? And it's just set up in a different way. I think Europe, especially in women's health, is making great strides. In the UK, for instance, even the government is putting together a women's health strategy, and that can only help and promote the sector. But I think to really address it, we'd have to address the wider problem of how do we accelerate and help innovation in the UK and Europe, and it goes beyond just anything relevant specifically to FemTech.
Many thanks, Hana. Others who would like to chip in?
Yeah, maybe
Souad,
I would have just to, yeah, I would just to add something. I agree with you, Anna, and accelerating and driving innovations. And I think more and more of the company, even US-based, are trying now to also be more implementing and have R&D and productions outside of the US and in Europe. At least that's the case of Hologic. We've seen that in the past 4 years, an increasing investment in Europe or in the European countries, in France, in the UK, in Finland, with R&D, research, and productions. However, I think there has been, back in 2018, so it was a bit before COVID, a project, an action plan that was brought by a European deputy women, European deputy, to really try to put together an action plan for women's health. I'm not sure this was pushed back again on the light after COVID and everything else that happened. So an idea could be to revive the idea of this 2018 action plan. I can share the link or more information after with the forum of idea, but contributing into the European Beating Cancer Plan, where there is already two main areas that are related to women's health, such as cervical cancer or breast cancer. And I think there's a lot here that we can do, because when we know that still many women die from cervical cancer, and it's one of the only cancer that you can prevent and avoid to die for it, one death of women is a death for nothing. So there are within the current action plan and actions that are also being put in place, maybe an opportunity to accelerate, to push, and to bring more the female voice in those actions.
Thank you, Souad. Very important topics indeed. Hana, Iva, would you like to provide your perspectives as well?
Yeah, I think it's sort of, because I remember the slide that Hana presented about the 1.2 trillion opportunity. I think that somehow in Europe the women's health was not seen as a real opportunity, economic opportunity. And I was thinking about if I maybe have to take some medication, some pills, if I know that the company actually is investing in differentiation in the clinical trials between women and men, using the correct path that takes into account the difference in biological and socioeconomic that we have between male and women, I think I would be more interested in using a medication that has taken into account these things. I think that maybe the communication, we have, of course, to change the context in Europe that has a bit long roads in the past. And but it is very important to make companies and the medtech sector understand that it's a huge opportunity, also in terms of economic revenues in this market.
Thank you, Hana. Iva, would you like to conclude on this question?
Well, I think that, not sure how to conclude though. Just because I mean I do agree with everything that has been said. I think that there's a huge market opportunity here in Europe, and like companies would need to. I mean, it's gonna be a struggle to kind of get funding for FemTech and like make sure that they can develop and kind of bridge the gender gap here. Just because from like our perspective, it's very hard to gain traction and to actually like make people believe in what we're doing, like especially from our perspective. But I don't know, I think that we need to continue talking and like raising our voices just to be heard, kind of, and to so people can pay more attention to this gap that exists between females and males, and like research and like clinical studies that are going into the development of medical devices and therapeutics. And yeah, hopefully we'll get like the attention that we seek.
Thank you, Iva. Fully agree with you, and I think really your work is contributing a great deal to that, all of you. Thank you. Then we've just got a question which is really for Souad, I believe, because people are interested to hear more about the Global Women's Index that you've launched, Souad, at Hologic. Can you please tell us a bit more about it?
Let me unmute unmute myself. So this report aimed to identify, I would say, the many barriers to preventive care for women. Hurdles include struggles to find enough food and shelter, lack of educational opportunities and threats to women's safety, that all of those that contribute to widening gaps in women's well-being across high versus low-income countries, urban versus rural areas, and highly versus less educated individuals. And these barriers also fueled record high levels of worry, stress, sadness, anger among women worldwide. I think it's around 122 countries that has been and territories that has been evaluated by the index. And we can see a significant room for improvement in women's health. There has been an average global score around 53 out of a possible of 100. And we can see that this can help, I would say, justify the louder wake-up call for everyone, world leaders, to do more for women, because the well-being of women and underpins the health of families, of communities, of societies, of economies. So it goes really beyond only speaking about the medical conditions only and the solutions. And it aims to be a survey that will be reported on an annual basis to see, the evolutions and to identify the opportunities for improvement. And I'm not saying that it gives a comparison between one country to another, but at least you can see how the different countries score on the different criteria. And at least it's a wake-up call that really provides this framework for hopefully achieving comprehensive progress for women health. And the 5 more important dimensions that this Women's Health Index look at is around preventive care, basic needs, the opinions of health and safety, and the individual health and emotional health. And we hope that by looking at those specific dimensions that alone account for more than 80% of the variance in women's health, in women's life expectancy worldwide, this can help guide the different leaders in focusing more on early detections, because we've said about preventions, but also treatment of diseases, and creating also stronger and safer nets for life's basic needs, such as food and shelter, but also continuing to keeping women safe when we know that they are not always everywhere in the world, and investing more in the resources that will help to increase the socioeconomic equity. So I encourage you to read the report. I will make sure that a link is shared via Biotech Atelier. And if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me as well.
Many thanks, Souad. My next question, and that's really for a very quick check with the 4 of you, within your companies, what is the share between men and women? Are they mostly driven by women leaders, or men are also very invested in the FemTech industry? What is your view on that?
If I can start speaking for Hologic, the purpose and the missions and the visions at Hologic, it's, as I said in my introductions, is primarily focused on women's health. And we do have leaders that are really entirely dedicated and always taking care of their female employees. And really everything we do every day when we wake up is how I'm going to impact the life of women around the world. So I would say within Hologic, it is really our DNA, and it's remarkably what made me decide to join this company 4 years ago as well.
Thank you, Souad.
If I can be next, if that's okay. Well, at DAYE, I would say, I mean, our founder is a female and our CEO is also, so basically the company is female led, but it's really interesting because we're almost like 50-50 in terms of like females and males in the company, and it's great to see so many males that are actually understanding that there is a big gender gap in medical and clinical research when it comes to actually female health. And all those men are very supportive and driven to actually bridge that. So yeah, I think that basically the mission of the company and just our founder is so kind of inspiring to like not only to the women in the company and to like other people, but also to the men. And yeah, that is something that I really like about DAYE as well, just because you see how we're like a very big community that just wants to make sure that there is equality in medical and like healthcare research.
Thanks, Eva. Wonderful to hear. Hana?
Yeah, of course, I can go next. So at Juno, I founded it, and I'm a female leader myself. But I'd say we definitely do have guys working at Juno. It's probably closer to 60%, 70% women, and the rest male. And I think that's really because just the mission of Juno obviously speaks really easily to women a lot more, and so when you get applicants for job roles, you do see that in the pool of applicants. But I think I'd like to echo, of course, that to really change the game for women's health, everyone needs to be on board, and allies and male allies are incredibly important as part of the people working on the mission. And of course, although it does affect women in a very significant way, the burden of fixing the patriarchal situation that we live in shouldn't just fall on the shoulders of women. And so that's how we look at it at Juno.
Thank you, Hana.
About me, I'm in this sector. We are in the healthcare engagement solution, a part of ALIRA Health, and we have more or less half and half between men and women. It's a quite parity. We have been acquired by ALIRA Health as a startup in the last year. So actually, I don't have the correct percentage in ALIRA Health because we are now integrating a lot of new companies. But I work actually in a very balanced environment where there are women and men's managers. So it is a matter of very balanced. So I empower myself, but also it's not. My actual manager, for example, is very open, so I feel for the first time to have the possibility to be myself, to express myself, and so he's very capable to give and to promote equality and equity. This is very important for every part of the company, from males and female leaders. So I think that this company will be these values are spread around the company. So I think we are going in the right direction.
Thank you, Anna. I think I'd like to really thank you all for this wonderful conversation. I think we can continue for much longer, but I understand that we're just approaching the next session. Thank you very much. I was truly privileged to be with you on the call today, and I hope our audience has also appreciated your perspectives. A reminder to Hana and also Souad to share the links to your respective clinical trials and also the Women's Index. Please, for the audience, you can always get in touch with us, and I'm sure Biotech Atelier will make the necessary links. And I would like to finish, I think, just to summarize it all, I believe it's really a call to our society altogether to really become more invested in enabling women's health. It's an incredibly important topic, and I think we can always all together make some changes and improve and move to a truly modern society, because I think there is a lot of work to do listening to your stories. And I wish you lots of success and best of luck also within your companies, with your projects. I see that they're really driving change, as I've already started with this. Thank you so much to the Biotech Atelier and to our wonderful audience, and please connect with us in case of questions. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ladies.